Hello and welcome, I'm JD and we've had update 0.2.2.35 improved mod support recently released in the last 24 hours. So let's go through some of the changes. One of the big bugbears was that when a person was hosting a game like I currently am here with a whole bunch of AI in multiplayer, when they wanted to retire because their fleet was destroyed, that was fine. However, a lot of people were then double clicking through this second menu. So they were retiring and then exiting the main menu. And what that was doing was ending the match for everyone else, where now you have a new screen that then appears. So the game isn't hosted on any dedicated server. It is hosted on the host player's computer. So it'll warn you, you are the host. It'll tell you that the battle's not yet completed because your team is still fighting. And that if you leave now, all the other players will be disconnected, receive no XP towards the next rank. So this is somewhat the same as the previous iteration. The difference now is you actually have to hold for 3 seconds in order to quit the game. So you can't just double click through retire and then straight on to exit. So the next thing that I want to show you, and I'll use the AI fleet for this because my ships have all been destroyed and are retreating, is that when you get closer to a ship now, that blue silhouette, red silhouette, or green silhouette will now disappear as you get closer to that ship, just leaving the name. And as I scroll back out, it's going to reappear. So I think that's a really good change. As you get nice and close, it's going to disappear, allows you to see the ship properly. And then as you come back almost to full view or full scroll out, you're then going to see the silhouettes again. So the next thing I want to show you is that each ship, friendly and enemy, now has a heading indicator. Here you can see my ships in the tactical view, and the straight line that's coming out of the ship's silhouette indicates the heading. So I think this is a really nice addition. One, it does work in spectator mode, so I will be able to see which way ships are heading once you set that heading using the heading command. Also, the point defense controller, which controls the logic for when you should be firing anti-missile missiles or the riposte missile in game, will now check for obstacles between the ship and the target. You shouldn't be launching any of these missiles now into terrain objects. It should work similarly to how the hot and cold launch checks work. If you've seen the major missile update video with the check spheres around. So that's a nice little addition there too. And further tweaks have been made to the spinal weapons on destroyers. So hopefully they were able to bear the target a little bit better than they previously were. And the fixes there make those beams a little bit more deadly. So if we come into the multiplayer lobby, there are a few changes to how mods can be utilized within the game. So first of all, if you're hosting a game like POTA 12, you'll now see green spanners next to the lobby name. And that indicates that that host is willing to have modded fleets within the game. For all the other ones, it'll simply be just the default alliance ships. Likewise, when you're hosting a game, this is the toggle here that you want to be selecting. It will let everyone know that your lobby is mod friendly. When you load into the lobby now, the default fleet that you'll always select will always be the first non-modded fleet. So here you can see, whilst I have the first fleet in my fleet list from the Cooper Shipworks, sorry if I've pronounced that wrong, that's the first time I've had to say it out loud, it's actually defaulted down to the 3CL gun fleet because this fleet here is outdated. So your default fleet will always bypass the modded fleets. It'll also bypass anything that's out to date and then select the first available fleet. You'll also note that all the fleets have the faction symbol next to them for that fleet. So whilst all this says the Alliance at the moment, eventually all in modded fleets will be able to put their own symbols there, so you'll be able to quickly see at a glance, are you using something from the State Yard Surplus or from the Cooper Shipworks? Again, sorry for the naming. And so when we also get the OSP faction will be located there. Likewise, that's then represented now next to the fleet name. So now when you have a full lobby, you'll be able to see all the different factions that people are bringing. So if you do bring a modded fleet, you can hover your mouse over the 2x spanners to show you what fleet mod that fleet is comprised of. In this case, it's just the Shipworks mod. However, it may be something that contains both a ship faction mod as well as a weapon pack, for example. So if you also hover your mouse over the mod synchronization panel, it'll show you all the mods that are going to be used in this lobby. So it'll show fleets, it'll show maps, it'll show other scenarios, etc. Here you can see I've just got the Shipworks mod added in, but if you had additional maps, it would also show there. So if you're interested to see what mods the host is loading, you can now do that. With the second upcoming faction of the vanilla gameplay, the Outer Systems Protectorate, or the OSP, coming, we now have ships being locked behind one faction. So if you have any fleets where you're using some of the vanilla ships and then some of the mods, you're not going to be able to use those in skirmish. You're going to have to go in, update them, and just have one of each. Likewise, when you come into the fleet editor now, you'll be presented with which faction you want your ships to come from. So with the Alliance being the vanilla faction, and then we also have the modded factions at the moment being the State Yard Surplus and the Prism Aerospace International ships. So if I come into the Alliance, for example, you'll see all of the vanilla ships there. If I come into State Yard, you can see all the State Yard ships. And likewise in Prism, if I can get the thing clicked, you'll see all the Prism International ships. The one thing to note here is if you're using a mod that hasn't updated to the faction system yet, then all the hulls will be displayed. So just be aware of that. Something that I found out earlier. So over time, as the mods get updated and this gets implemented, they'll all be able to be selected. So if you're using something such as the legitimate salvage mod that adds the expanse ships in here, then you're going to be able to see them as their own individual faction. Also from this first screen, if you've entered the fleet editor for the first time, instead of creating a new set of ships or a new faction, you can go straight into loading an existing fleet, which you can see here. In addition, our mods can access dependencies, so someone can build a framework mod that everyone else can then utilize parts of. And so if any mods have dependencies, you can now press the auto sort load order button, and that will organize your mods in their dependent order. And finally, there's just been a few balances and fixes. So the heavy cruiser target in tutorial 6 has been made a little bit easier. If a player has a modded fleet and they switch to spectator, you'll no longer count towards the mods that need to be loaded. So if you load into a game and you then move to spectator, it's not going to force everyone to load mods that you have loaded that aren't going to be used. Intel function has been fixed, and a few people have been saying that the time dilation has been going from 100% down to 10%. That's now been fixed as well. You should be able to actually have the time dilation working in an appropriate manner based on how much strain it actually needs to deal with before returning to 100%. Two final points. The AI has been fixed in that it'll no longer fire missiles that are out of range. It'll wait to move into range before they then start to fire. And also, it won't fire any missiles at a target that it can't see. So that's it for this update. So thanks for watching and take care.